Welcome to the Optimised Health Show with your hosts, Ben and Sarah Law.
Hello.
So we
haven't done this for a while.
Are back, and we have had a lovely rebrand. As you can see, we are now called the Optimised Health Show instead of Healthy Living with the Laws. And we started the podcast in lockdown, didn't we? It was our lockdown project many moons ago.
So long ago now, I can't even remember.
And one word for the podcast was inconsistent. Basically.
I think we've averaged about 2 podcasts a year.
Yes.
So we're doing well.
Very inconsistent. So
I think the last one was just over a year ago.
So we're doing well. So I hope you've been waiting in anticipation for this next one. So we've decided that we are going to be more consistent. That is the word, consistent. Aren't we, Benjamin Law?
Well, we say that.
No, we are. I want to be. If Ben doesn't do it, I'm doing it.
Let's not make any promises we can't keep. Just say.
I had many people say that they liked our podcast and they wanted to listen to more. So therefore, we need to.
But I don't know if we can produce more because we're rubbish.
We can. We need to listen to the public. We need to help them.
The public has spoken.
Yes, they've spoken and they want our advice. So I hope you like the new logo. We like it.
That might be a little loud on the microphone there. That's okay. It's your foghorn voice.
Oh, well, sorry, I'll tone myself down.
Rebrand is just it's not just about podcasts, is it?
No, it's of things to come.
We'll maybe keep that.
Stum.
But
there's exciting
with the optimised brand, shall we say?
Some things on the horizon that we're very excited about. But the podcast is the start of this. So if you listen to Healthy Living, I cannot speak.
Healthy Living with the Laws.
This is it, basically, but different.
Different.
Oh no, we're like the same person. Weird. Anyway, so where have we been? Where are we now?
I think we do this every time. Where have we been? What have we been doing? And now we're
We've been basically
in a different land.
We were in Ibiza in the last podcast when we did Ben Law's history.
And now we're back in sunny UK.
It's 4 p.m. and it's dark already. It's grey.
And now in the north of England.
We're in the north.
Why did we move?
I'm not sure. People will ask us and we don't know, basically.
Why did we leave the sunshine?
I'm not sure, and there are mornings I wake up sad, regret my decision.
There were many reasons for it. Do we want to go into all of them?
The reasons were deliveries, not to get organic food.
I guess we don't live normal lives, do we? And there's certain things we require, like supplements and foods.
Quality food.
That we couldn't get. You required a lot of specialist stuff.
There was also some interesting stuff in one of the WhatsApp groups that I'm in at the moment about, in Ibiza this happens every year, where there's planes spraying lots of chemical crap over the whole of the island, basically. I think it's to do with, I can't remember whether it's to do with the caterpillars or something to do with infected trees. The Brits, they're trying to get rid of them. But yeah, this chemical shitstorm, basically, that they spray over the entire island. It's not good.
And they're not hot on pesticides and herbicides.
No.
As in, the regulations around them are pretty weak, aren't they? You can spray anything on anything, which is obviously not great. And then mould issues in a lot of the places.
Yeah, it's a very humid little island.
And of course, Brexit, so you couldn't actually legally stay anyway.
No. There's so many things we love about the island. What's going on with the logo?
1 second. Just while I sort out the logo. Oh my god.
What's happened? There we go, we're back in business. So many things we love about Ibiza. Beautiful place, made some great friends. I really miss my friends. The sunshine is gorgeous, but there's just some frustrating things, which we used to call paradise tax. That's what people call it.
A lot of frustrations, weren't there? We really want to grow our businesses and start new ventures, and it's just more conducive to do it here than on a tiny island.
And Mr. Law, you took full advantage of Amazon when we first moved back, didn't you? I think there was a point where we were having about 7 Amazon deliveries a day. Had to rein it in.
I got a bit carried away to begin with.
A bit trigger happy.
Obviously, it takes about 3 weeks to get an Amazon delivery if it turns up.
Well, if you can get it.
I got a bit carried away with same day delivery.
Bonkers.
So it's calmed down a little now.
But February comes along and we're not going to be here either, are we? That's for the next adventure.
Well, off we go again.
Keep you posted on what's next for the Laws, but it's not wisely.
For the time being, we're in Leeds because a few friends that live around here, so we thought we'd try the north of the UK.
It's very beautiful, but very cold and grey, quite regularly.
Very cold, very grey.
A whole other level of grey.
It's a bit of a shock to the system, wasn't it?
Yeah, we really threw ourselves into the deep end. It's great for cold showers. I've never experienced water quite so cold in my life, I don't think.
I guess you can call that a bonus. Water's really cold.
Anyway, that's not what this podcast is about today. The podcast is about the dark side of the supplement industry.
Yes.
So this is something that we're both hugely passionate about. Obviously, me being a functional nutritionist and Benjamin being a supplement owner.
Know a few things about supplements.
We know quite a lot, and for me, the amount of conversations I have with women before they become clients of mine and I ask what supplements they're taking, and I'm just like, oh dear. Lots of random things that they may not necessarily need, but also quality-wise are just shocking. And because they're cheap, they buy them, and I'm like, ooh, buy cheap, buy twice. So you really wanted to dive into this today and give you some insights into why you need to be really mindful about what supplements you're buying, and actually how some that you're buying could actually be doing more harm than good. So take note. So firstly, we want to talk about why there's such a lack of regulations in terms of supplementation. And because people often say, well, surely if it's on a shelf or surely if it's online and I buy it, it's got to have some kind of regulations behind it, and it's got to have what it states in the label. And that is not true, is it?
No, I don't know why it's so unregulated, but actually anyone can pretty much start a supplement company tomorrow and
put anything in there.
Speak to a manufacturer, get anything made.
I think some of the reason it's so unregulated, not necessarily unregulated, but why nothing's done about it is because it would take enough people to complain in order for anything to be done. But the problem with supplementation is it's not like you take a supplement and you notice a huge difference. You're not like you take something and you're like, woohoo, I feel like a different person. So we often take things and we don't know if they're having an impact or if they're doing anything. So we just keep taking it because we think it might be.
I think it's because they're officially classed as food, not drugs. So they don't have the same rules around them as pharmaceutical drugs, even though supplements can have profound effects on the body. They're called actual food product, but they're not.
Well, they're not a food, are they? Because they're in high physiological doses. When you get something in a capsule and it's...
Yourself, you can take a natural herb or something, you can have a dramatic effect.
Absolutely, in a good way or not a good way. Licorice, don't ever mention that word. It's like dirt to me. Never put me near licorice ever again.
It massively increases cortisol, right?
It stops cortisol clearance, which can be incredible for some people. If you're deactivating a lot of your cortisol into cortisone and you've got low cortisol, it can be great because it keeps it in your system for longer. However, if your cortisol is quite high and then you take it's not fun. I experienced that and I ended up like a big puffball, didn't I? There's some great pictures of me with like the most swollen face you've ever seen in your life. It was not fun. So they can have huge effects because it is like a concentrated version of that food or whatever it is that you're taking in a capsule, isn't it?
I think there are more regulations coming in, but currently it's a bit of the Wild West out there. There's a lot of dodgy companies
who are very clever with their marketing, and this is the problem that we see a lot. Like, you'll go onto a website and you'll say some of the buzzwords like no bulking agents, no fillers, created by functional medicine doctors or whatever, and people in white coats on the label or on the website, and it's like that they can get away with so much, and it's like, actually, what is going on behind the scenes there? There
are rules around what you can put on labels, so weakly regulated, it's not enforced almost. That's weird. MHRA you're not allowed to do that, but then people do it. And they get away with it. It's
bonkers. So we wanted to talk about like what things you need to be looking out for, and then give you some insights onto what you should look for in brands. So firstly, let's talk about testing procedures. So what testing procedures do the company use, and do they test their raw ingredients for purity, safety, efficacy, contaminants, etc. before going into the end product, and then test the end product again? There can be a lot of contaminants in individual ingredients, can't there? So there could be things like heavy metals. What else could be in there? Mold, mycotoxins,
salmonella.
Delicious. Yeah. So it's really important
like foreign objects, even.
Wow. What do you mean by a foreign object?
Just the actual bits of metal.
Wow.
Or plastic or stuff.
Nice. So you could just be eating a bit of plastic rather than taking a supplement that's going to help you. That's really nice. So you want a company that makes sure that they test the raw ingredients, right?
They want to be testing
each,
or the manufacturer does want to be testing each ingredient that comes into the manufacturing facility
before going into the end product.
Well, firstly, you have to assess the supplier. So the supplier has to meet, if for a good manufacturer, they'll assess the supplier to make sure they meet all these standards. So our supplier has very comprehensive list of things.
Your supplier is crazy good. Their list of
things that they have to adhere to before they'd even approve the supplier. Then they approve the supplier. Then they have to approve their manufacturing facility, so where they actually make the raw ingredient. And then they test the raw ingredient when it comes to them for everything we've mentioned. So heavy metals, microbiology, which is all the E. coli and salmonella and stuff like that. And then if you want, you can request further testing. They're the standard tests.
Amazing.
And then if they're really, really good manufacturer, then they'll test again the finished product. So once it's put into a or into a capsule, and they'll test that again.
Exactly, to make sure that the end product
So they're basically testing that there's been no contamination during the manufacturing process. So the raw ingredient's been tested, then the capsule has been tested almost.
And this is why I only recommend certain brands. There's just too much crap out there and people are taking it and I'm like, oh, so I will only ever recommend you, obviously, because I know
Life supplements.
Of course. Another brand that I work with called Arbonne, and then practitioner grade supplements are the ones that I always recommend to my clients because I want to make sure that they're having the best quality and actually we're improving their health, not the opposite.
But that's the testing on the contaminant side. Then there's the next level of testing is
it
which
actually what it says?
We start to go to that next level, but testing that it has the level of active ingredient that you claim on the label.
Yeah, so there was an interesting study done, wasn't there, was it Now Foods? Now Supplements? Now Foods?
Now Foods have comprehensive testing of
lots of different brands.
Lots of other people's brands.
You can actually
what we want to do. Very costly.
You could look on Google and find that study that they did. But basically what they discovered was 70 to 80% of single ingredient products on Amazon didn't actually meet the label claims, and 20 to 30% had no active ingredients in at all. So you're taking something which says it's something and none of it's in there at all. That's
massively
crazy.
They're not in there, or a very, very low dose, way under what they're claiming on the label.
So what you're paying for is not what you're getting at all. You might as well, even if you're spending £5 on a supplement, it's still £5 that is a waste of money because it's not actually anything. You might as well not bother. So yeah, that's crazy to think about. I wanted to just mention organic as well. So organic doesn't necessarily mean the best. So with organic, it doesn't take into consideration whether there's been runoff. So you might have an organic farm, let's say some herbs or whatever are produced on an organic farm, but it doesn't take into consideration whether there's been runoff from a farm next to it that's not organic. So again, I think we often go by the standard of, oh, it's organic, it must be good. And that's not necessarily always the case. And again, if you have a company where they look at all of the manufacturing processes, where they know where the ingredients are sourced from and each individual ingredient is tested, then that's actually going way above and beyond what organic is, isn't it?
I'd rather buy an ingredient that's been fully tested than organic that's not been fully tested. And if you have both, then that's the gold standard, really. But if a non-organic product has been fully tested, then you almost know it meets the standard of organic anyway, because it doesn't have the pesticides and herbicides.
Exactly.
It's tested negative for all those things that non-organic products would normally have.
Don't be fooled by if it says organic on the label as that being, okay, it's all good then. That's what we're trying to say in terms of that. So quality is king. I wanted to just briefly touch on fish oils. What? Can you read my writing?
No. Going back to testing. So how does the end consumer know that it's been tested?
Yes.
And this is where the
this is what
COA,
we're going to go into.
Now we're talking about testing. Might as well talk about the COA.
I can.
It's called Certificate of Analysis, and every company should be able to provide a COA for every batch. Not just every product, but for every batch of product they produce. And in that COA, it should have all these test results, the expected value and the value they've achieved. Like I said, the heavy metals and the microbiology minimum. But then if they go a step further, like active ingredients product.
So we know that what it states is what it is.
And preferably by a third party, someone like Eurofins or certified labs.
Yes, it's not been doctored in-house. So I wanted to talk about fish oils because they can be incredibly helpful but incredibly harmful. And the reality is, for so many on the market, about 40% of fish oils are actually oxidized, which isn't good. You don't want to be taking oxidized fish oils, do you? Not good
really.
For your health.
Don't really take it oxidize anything.
No. So you want it to be pure and make sure that it's not oxidized. And again, that can happen through manufacturing processes, storage, etc., can't it? So it's important, like you're just taking a fish oil, which many people are buying them from high street stores, or some online, just random. And again, you're like, great, fish oil is really beneficial because it's high in omega-3 and it's anti-inflammatory and it's great for my heart health. Maybe not if you're taking poor quality ones. And again, so you really need to look at things like the CoAs, practitioner grade, highly reputable brands when it comes to things like fish oils.
I guess with fish oils, you want one with an antioxidant,
like
vitamin E or astaxanthin. And that's where krill oil is good because it's naturally occurring astaxanthin in it, which helps preserve it. So that's why we sell krill oil.
It's really important to have that antioxidant with it, isn't it, to protect it, essentially. So make sure you're looking out for that. Incorrect doses. So again, like we mentioned, in terms of has it actually got what it states in the label? And sometimes it actually might be in a way higher dose if it's not been tested than what is right for a human body.
It's rare that it's overdosed.
It is, but it could be. And if it is, for example, like with something like vitamin D, with things like that, vitamin D is a hormone and it needs to be in the right dose for your body. And so if you're taking a dose and it's way higher than it states on the label, that could actually be doing a lot of harm.
Or if they state it on the label as that high, because there's strength wars on Amazon. You just
think the highest is the best.
Bigger there, more the better.
Yeah.
People just produce stronger and stronger products, which could be, let's say, detrimental.
Absolutely. Your body might not need that. And that's why testing is so important for certain things as well. Because again, people just think, oh, vitamin D, it's great for me. It's fantastic for your immune system, etc., bone health. But you don't want to overdose on vitamin D. Or
it's
anything.
like, I guess, glucose disposal agents as well. Can be too strong and tank your blood sugar, actually.
And again, depending on you as a human person, not an animal person, whether you need that and what your body is actually, dose your body needs. Genetics. So this is obviously not to do with supplement quality, but it is to do with what you need in terms of like whether your body can actually convert that into its active form. So let's take, for example, folic acid. So folic acid is super important. Everyone knows the importance of folic acid, but if you've got a mutation on your MTHFR gene, which a lot of the population actually do, like a block or a partial block on that gene, you then can't convert folic acid into the active form of folate. And if you don't do that, it can actually create a buildup of homocysteine, which is not good. That folic acid that you maybe are taking in a supplement would actually block the absorption of folate from your foods, etc. So it's super important I'm a massive fan of knowing your genetic makeup. I think it can be incredibly useful as a tool in knowing how to really hone in and personalize your nutrition and your supplementation to make sure that what you're taking is actually supporting you and not. And it really helps you know what your weaknesses are. So I know, for example, I'm much more prone to inflammation. I'm not good with recovery. I'm more prone to poor estrogen detox. I'm basically a bit genetically screwed, to be honest. More prone to obesity. So for me, I know that, and that means that I know there's certain supplements that I really make sure I take on a regular basis because they help me reduce inflammation and fight off reactive oxygen species, etc., especially if I've exercised. So knowing that kind of stuff can be super helpful. Another thing that I know is I'd be an absolutely terrible vegan because I am abysmal genetically at converting beta carotene into its active form of vitamin A. So again, for you, if you don't know that stuff, you might be taking multivitamin, for example, with loads of beta carotene in, but are you actually able to convert it? And if you can't, then it's a waste of money.
I guess it's just about getting the best forms of the ingredient, right? Because there's a lot of cheap forms and unbioavailable forms.
What's the word?
I've just made it up. A good example is magnesium oxide is really poorly, makes you poo.
Great if you got constipation.
But it's super cheap, so people stuff their magnesium products with mag oxide.
Yes.
And then there's multiple examples, isn't there?
What about another really good example actually of that is iron. So if you have low iron and you go to the doctors, you'll often get put on a form of iron that's so harsh on your digestive system and so just makes you feel rubbish and you don't absorb it very well. So form is really important. So the ferrous form of iron is much more bioavailable and absorbable and less harsh on your digestive system. But even with things like iron, you really want to test before you start taking iron willy-nilly because iron is an interesting one. Like, you don't want to be overdosing on iron. It just rusts you, essentially. It rusts your insides. So it's very dangerous if you start taking iron and you don't actually need it. So I would definitely recommend getting a full iron panel. Not just iron, but things like storage of iron, ferritin and transferrin saturation, total iron binding capacity. Lots of things like that, basically. That
like
help
the cofactors and stuff like that, right? Because like zinc, if you take too much zinc without copper, you can deplete copper massively,
and vice versa. And that's why women who have the copper coil often end up zinc.
Is that true?
Yeah, deficient because they've got a steady supply, essentially, of copper going into the system, and then not enough zinc if they're not eating enough zinc or supplementing with zinc. So yeah, it's really important to know with supplementation what you should be taking with what and what you shouldn't be taking with what. Another example of that is iron. If you take it alongside alongside vitamin C, helps with absorption. But if you take it alongside calcium, for example, it will block the absorption, or caffeine. It's all very fun and interesting. But this is why I'm a big fan of supplementation, and I really believe that everyone in this day and age needs some form of supplementation. But just guessing what you need, probably not the best idea, really. Is it?
Not really. It's a little bit scary that people can just buy anything. I own a supplement company.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just can self-medicate, basically.
But that's why you have
guidance.
the option on your website as well for people to have
consultations
with moi, so that we can actually look into your health and go, is this actually going to be beneficial? And also, you have to remember, you cannot out-supplement a bad diet and lifestyle. Supplements have a time and a place. They're incredible. And in this day and age, we need them more than ever because the quality of our food is not what it used to be. Stress levels are higher than they've ever been. The toxic burden of people's bodies is more than it's ever been. So there's lots of reasons why we need supplementation. But you can't just... The question I get asked...
a bad diet.
Exactly. The one question I get asked the most on my social media is, what I'm experiencing this, what supplement should I take? And I'm like, well, why don't we look at your diet and lifestyle first rather than just going to the supplement?
Magic pill, don't they?
They do, and there isn't one, unfortunately. Supplements can be incredible, they can help in many ways, but you can't just do one part of health, you have to focus on all. So, what to look...
I think we spoke about overdosing, we didn't speak about underdosing in the dosing section.
Oh, you go for it, underdosing. Tell me about underdosing.
Because the bigger problem is a lot of companies will put a tiny amount of something in which won't do anything. I think I highlighted on my feed the other day with a specific turmeric supplement.
Again, very clever marketing.
They'll put a tiny amount in.
Oh, we didn't talk about proprietary blends either.
Hang on, we'll get to that.
Okay.
And they'll just put a tiny amount in just to make the label look good because they can list that ingredient, but just a very small amount, which won't really do anything. Or we'll
give the example of turmeric and curcumin that you gave on your story, because that will make more sense.
That example is they just had a very small amount, like 58 milligrams.
They had loads of... it said so much turmeric, didn't it? But the active component in turmeric is curcumin.
No, they actually said curcumin. And that one, it was turmeric extract. I think they didn't even try to hide it, but people don't know, do they?
No.
Because that's 58 milligrams per 2 capsules, and ours is 500 milligrams per 1 capsule. So 20 times the amount per capsule, which is the studied amount.
Yes, and that's important. It's like something to have an effect.
And there's a reason why, like I said in the reel, there's a reason why it's £6. Ours is £26. Not just because we want to make a massive amount of money, because it costs way more. That's a big red flag. If a supplement
is £6
is of £6, I know how much these products cost, and we can't even produce it for £6. So for them to sell it for £6,
yes,
it won't have the testing, it won't have the manufacturing processes included, and it won't have the amount of ingredient you need.
No.
Then they'll also hide behind extract ratios.
Yes.
So
that's really confusing as well. Even I look at those and I'm like, my brain does not compute those numbers. Tell us about
the extract ratio is like 10 to 1, say. So you'd require 10 times the amount of ingredient to distill down into... Say for 500 milligrams of an ingredient, a 10 to 1 extract ratio, you need 500 milligrams of the material to make 50 milligrams.
That made my brain hurt already.
Of the extract.
That's not my strong point. So
it's highly concentrated, basically.
So the lower the ratio, the better. Yes.
Higher the ratio, the stronger it is in theory.
Okay. So 20 to 1 would be higher. Well, I know that's higher. That would be stronger than 10 to 1.
But on the label, they'll put the raw material value as the value, not the extracted value. You know what I mean? So they'll say
if it was ashwagandha,
they'll say it's 500 milligrams
of ashwagandha,
or curcumin, when it's actually only 50 milligrams.
And do they even put the 10 to 1, or do they just not even write that?
They will have to put it on the ingredients list. But on the front of the label, it will say 500 milligrams of curcumin, and on the listing on Amazon, it will say the 500 bigger or even higher sometimes, because some extract ratios are like 50 to 1, so they'll say 15,000 milligrams.
But it's actually not when you look at the ratio. Interesting. Yes. And then proprietary, I can never say that word, proprietary blends. So proprietary blends are an interesting one because a lot of the time it can actually just be that they're disguising.
Most of the time it's they're disguising, yeah.
Saying that it's got all these amazing ingredients in, but when it's a proprietary blend, they don't have to say how much of each ingredient.
It's more so in America than the UK. I don't even know if you can do it in the UK. Maybe you can.
I'm sure you can.
But they'll just say proprietary belly buster blend and then list all the ingredients without stating the amount of each of individual ingredient in that blend. So they could put the most expensive one as the smallest amount, basically. And
then the cheapest one, like say it had magnesium oxide in that proprietary blend, that could be the bulk of proprietary blend and then a tiny bit of the other ones. Some companies do it, like quality companies that I know, that I use as a practitioner. Some of them do it because I know they do it to not their formulas stolen. Yeah, again, it's knowing the brand.
We say everything on the label.
Yes.
I admit we're fully open to our formulas getting stolen, but then I doubt anyone will be able to produce them at such a high level. So,
and this is it. You want a company that has full transparency. That is it. They list everything on the ingredients label. Everything.
That's all the fillers, all
everything
in there, and the amount of each.
So things to look out for in brands: certificates of analysis, we've spoken about, full transparency of ingredients, testing and manufacturing procedures even, bulking agents and fillers. We haven't spoken about that. So you are a master of this. Explain bulking agents and fillers and why it's so hard actually to get products that don't contain those bulking agents and fillers. Like you've told me about with the companies that to run it through the machines, it's not easy to do for some things, is it?
So bulking agents.
That little moment of...
I'm just gathering my thoughts. A manufacturer will use a bulking agent to fill up the capsule, because often the material doesn't fill the capsule, so there'll be a gap in the capsule if you don't use a bulking agent, which for one looks bad to the customer, which I don't really care, but other companies do. And also they can't run it through the machine for some reason unless it fills up the capsule, so they'll just have to put
stuff
that doesn't really do anything but does cost money. So what we do when that happens, it's happened a million times, I'll either reduce the size of the capsule because they can go down very small, but some manufacturers can't manufacture all capsule sizes. Some will only do double O's or blah, blah, blah.
Technical on us now.
So in that case, I'll put something else in the product. I'll either increase ingredients that are already in there, just put more of it in, or put another ingredient in there that's complementary or actually improves the product. For example, with our D3K2, I filled up with MCT powder, which is a healthy fat that helps in the absorption of D3.
It's a fat-soluble vitamin, so you need fat to absorb it properly.
So if you look at the ingredients list of many supplements, the first ingredient will be the bulking agent because it's normally the most
prevalent.
But I just think it's a waste. It's unnecessary. Just make your product better.
Also, for some people, depending on their bodies, some people are highly sensitive to things like that. Like I've got some clients who you give them a supplement with bulking agents in, and
most of it, I don't think most people have a reaction, but there's someone who reacts. There's a person out there that will react to anything. Right? Yeah. Most of it it's called MCC, microcrystalline cellulose. So that's bulking agents, and then there's processing agents and flow agents and stuff like that are harder to remove everything. I've had battles with our manufacturers to try and keep everything out, but sometimes it literally won't run through the machine unless it has a flow agent. They can't get the stuff into the capsule. Obviously that doesn't apply to powders because powders are just dumped into the pot. But if it has to go into a capsule, sometimes it's very hard to not use a flow agent.
I can imagine.
But then again, we try to use as natural stuff as possible, like bamboo, silica.
Which actually can have some benefits. Helps with collagen.
Again, you can have it, so it provides a benefit. We used to use Numag, but now we've stopped using that because we had issues.
Anything else?
But again, a lot of companies won't have the battles with the manufacturer because every manufacturer wants to make it easy for themselves to get through the machines. So other companies might just accept it, but I always push back. It might make it more expensive or slower to run, but I'd rather have the cleanest product possible.
And again, this goes back down to price. What are you willing to pay for your health?
So a big example of this is our essential amino tablets, which I posted on my story a little while ago, that tablets are very hard, very, very hard to not use any.
Amino acids, your aminos.
We had a massive technical glitch there, but we're back. Prime example of this is our essential amino acid tablets. Tablets very often need fillers and bulking agents just to make the tablet to stick all the material together, and often they're glazed to stop them being powdery. And ours have always been excipient free from day one because we've managed to find a way to get them to compress by using, it's called DC grade amino acids. So they're direct compression or something amino acids, but they're still very hard to make for the manufacturer, and they hate making them because it almost breaks the machine to compress them hard enough to get them together. And so the manufacturer originally made them, just said they wouldn't do it anymore.
Wow.
Because it said it was just too much of a ball ache, basically. So then we had to find a new manufacturer that met all the standards and then to still do it without any fillers or excipients. And they pushed back originally, saying we wanted to put this and that in it, bulking agents and stuff, because the tablets were cracking. And I said, no, we want to keep it as clean as possible. So they finally agreed to do it with no excipients, no fillers. It was a long process, and even now there's probably, I don't know, about 10% of each batch we have to throw away. They have to pick through because it cracks all the tablets.
Wow.
Also, the price has increased because it's extra manpower for them to go through and pick out all these tablets. But again,
worth it.
I'd rather have it like that.
Gee whiz, I bet you didn't know. Half of this goes on in the industry of supplementation.
Exactly.
It's a fun world, right? So yeah, I think that's everything we wanted to chat.
Is that everything?
I think so.
I thought there was something else, and now your Remarkable's closed down.
There's definitely nothing else on my notes that you can't read anyway.
There was something.
Well, it's gone, so save that for another day. Otherwise we're going to be sitting here for 45 minutes waiting for you to think.
I guess I wanted to say there's just a lot of dodgy players out there with misleading labels, and it's very hard for the consumer.
Yes, it is.
I can understand why it's hard, because they just say all this stuff, and why wouldn't you believe it? They got a load. They'll be on Amazon with thousands of great reviews, which they've just got.
It's very easy to get reviews.
They have processes to get reviews, and they have great marketing and great looking packaging and
all the right words.
And the things like lab tested,
no bulking
made
agents.
by professors from Harvard or whatever, because they can just say whatever. So, but you can't fudge testing documents from third parties. Well, you could just make up the document,
true.
really.
Damn,
but
that's a lot.
I'm sure the testing company would come after you if you started doctoring certificates.
So basically what we're saying is buy cheap, buy twice, only buy from reputable companies. If you don't know what they are, reach out to someone like myself, a health professional, who will guide you in the right way to knowing which brands to use, what to use, and how to use.
Demand those CoAs. You put a QR code on every label now, so you can just scan it and download the COA for that batch.
Smart. And that's all on episode number 1 of the Optimised Health Show. We will be back for more, hopefully. Maybe. We're going to leave you in anticipation. Anticipation. But if you've enjoyed this episode and you like what you hear, give us a rating.
Give us
5-star ops, because then that helps us spread the word, help more people, and get this kind of information out to it.
Going forward, we could do these as a lives as well.
I did say that was the plan, but you were like, no, because it's a different audience.
But then technically wise, we're just winging this at the moment. We've got 2 phones set up, a laptop.
We have.
If we had lives as well, we'd have to have live phones or something.
We need a production team, so if you know anyone that could help us.
We're literally in the kitchen.
We are in the kitchen and Dram right now. I need a production team. We need some help.
But I think this is a good effort. As we've been off for so long and we're very rusty.
We are very rusty.
And
needs a cup of tea. But thanks for listening. We hope you found it informative. Please share with anyone that you think this would really benefit, and don't forget to give us a 5-star review. We'll see you next time. I was going to say next week.
But don't promise what you can't deliver.
I am going to say we're going to do it, because if I don't hold myself accountable, it's not going to happen. So we're doing it next week. Next week there'll be another one. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
And stay optimised.
Wow. Love it. Goodbye.
Bye.